For decades, a single financial story has been repeated so often that it feels like a law of nature. Parents pass it down, grandparents swear by it, and smiling real estate agents reinforce it on billboards and bus stops. It's framed as the American dream, the moment you finally become a real adult. According to this story, renting is a waste. You're throwing money away, paying someone else's mortgage instead of building your own wealth. Buying a home, we're told, is the smartest investment you'll ever make. So deeply do we absorb this belief that it becomes personal. If you're still renting in your late 20s or early 30s, it can feel like a moral failure, like you didn't grow up on time. People panic, stretch themselves thin, and buy homes they can barely afford, maxing out debt ratios just to say they own something. The deed becomes proof of intelligence. But for millions of people living in today's economy, this belief is outdated and dangerous. The math is different now. The market has shifted. Blind faith in homeownership is quietly locking an entire generation into illiquid, stagnant financial lives. Here's the uncomfortable reality most people don't want to face. For many homeowners, their house is not an asset. It's a liability disguised as an investment, a consumption purchase powered by leverage. I'm Andrew, and I spend far too much time digging into the numbers the real estate industry hopes you never run. If you feel pressured to buy, or if you already own a home but feel strangely broke despite it, this conversation is for you. Today, we're breaking apart the rent versus buy myth piece by piece, exposing the hidden costs of ownership, introducing the price to rent ratio, and showing how disciplined renters who invest the difference often end up wealthier, freer, and far less stressed than homeowners tied to decades-long mortgages. To understand why buying isn't always the smarter move, we need to redefine what throwing money away actually means. When you rent, you exchange money for shelter. The payment is gone, and that's obvious. But when you buy a house, you're told your monthly payment is savings, equity, progress. That's only partially true, and especially false in the early years. A huge portion of homeownership costs also disappear forever. They don't build equity. They never come back. These are unrecoverable costs, and they quietly drain wealth. The largest of these is mortgage interest. In the early phase of a standard 30-year loan, roughly 3/4 of each payment goes straight to the bank. You're not paying yourself, you're renting money. Look at an amortization table and it's shocking. A monthly payment of around $2,800 might reduce your principal by only $350. The rest simply evaporates. Then there are property taxes, ongoing payments to the government just to stay put. In many areas, these taxes rival the cost of rent. Add maintenance, which typically runs about 1 to 2% of a home's value each year, not upgrades, basic survival costs like plumbing failures, roofing issues, and appliances dying at the worst time. Layer on insurance, and finally the transaction costs of buying and selling, which can quietly consume close to 8 to 10% of a home's value over time. When you add everything together, interest, taxes, maintenance, insurance, and fees, the annual unrecoverable cost of owning often matches or exceeds the cost of renting the same place. You're not escaping rent, you're just paying different landlords, the bank, the state, and the repair industry. This decision usually comes down to one powerful metric, the price to rent ratio. Think of it as the housing market's PE ratio. You calculate it by dividing the purchase price of a home by the yearly rent of a comparable property. For example, if a home sells for about $420,000 and rents for $1,800 per month, roughly $21,600 per year, the ratio is around 19. Historically, ratios below 15 favor buying. Ratios above 20 strongly favor renting. In many major cities today, places like San Francisco, New York, Toronto, and Sydney, ratios are pushing 25 or even 30. At those levels, the math clearly favors renting. Why? Because renting lets you live inside an expensive asset without financing it. You're effectively consuming housing at a discount while the owner absorbs the risk, repairs, market downturns, structural failures. You get flexibility, they get exposure. You're paying for shelter, not speculation. But the most overlooked cost of homeownership is the down payment. This is the invisible wealth killer no one brings up at family dinners. To buy that $420,000 home, you might need $85,000 up front. That money is now locked inside walls. It doesn't generate income. It can't be rebalanced. It's trapped equity. If, instead, that same $85,000 were invested in the stock market, historically returning about 9 to 10% annually, it would double roughly every 7 to 8 years. By choosing a house, you're betting that one local real estate market will outperform the global economy. Historically, that bet loses. Economist Robert Shiller showed that over the long run, real home prices barely beat inflation. Most massive gains people talk about are either leverage effects or bubble-era luck. Renting and investing both the down payment and the monthly savings preserves liquidity, diversification, and higher expected returns. This is the rent and invest the difference strategy, and for disciplined people, it's a wealth accelerator. Liquidity and mobility matter more than ever. A home is an anchor. In a fast-changing economy, the ability to move for a better job or lifestyle is a massive asset. If a renter gets a job offer paying $45,000 more in another city, they can move in weeks. A homeowner faces months of friction, agent fees, closing costs, and the risk of selling into a weak market. Selling a home can wipe out years of equity overnight. Buying a home is effectively a bet that your current location will be optimal for the next decade. If you're wrong, the exit fee is brutal. Renting buys you options, and in uncertain times, options are valuable. The biggest counterargument is inflation. Rent rises, mortgages are fixed, and that's valid. A fixed mortgage is an inflation hedge, but only partially. Property taxes rise, insurance premiums surge, repair costs climb. You're not immune to inflation, you're just exposed differently. Meanwhile, investments grow. If your portfolio compounds at 8 to 10% annually while rent rises 3%, the gap often favors renters who invest consistently. There's also a lifestyle cost no spreadsheet captures. Homeownership is a second job. Weekends disappear into hardware stores. Every strange noise becomes a financial threat. Renting outsources that stress. It buys time. Time that can be reinvested into skills, side businesses, rest, or relationships. Many people buy homes seeking stability, only to find anxiety instead. This isn't an argument against owning forever. Buying makes sense if you're staying put long-term, value customization over liquidity, and live in a market where the ratio supports it. But buying is not a requirement for wealth. A house is a consumption choice, not a guaranteed investment. Treating your primary residence as your main asset creates a concentrated, illiquid portfolio vulnerable to shocks. Wealth isn't about owning deeds, it's about owning income-producing assets. Stocks, businesses, bonds, these pay you. A house demands payment. Run the numbers, check the ratio. If the math says rent, rent confidently. Invest the difference, build liquidity, let the landlord worry about the roof. If this made you rethink the dream you were sold, you know what to do. I'll see you next time.